Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 231 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. And I hope you all are having a good Thanksgiving weekend, and I hope you indulged, ate some good food on Thanksgiving if you celebrate it or you've already celebrated it, whether it was days ago, weeks ago. I hope you ate that good food. Whether it was a turkey, ham, a stuffing, and got some good desserts along with it too. Drank some good drinks, all that good stuff on Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good one, that good Thanksgiving feast, and I hope you're getting some good deals on that Black Friday shopping there, pal. Whether it's out in the malls, into the streets, or at the stores, wherever it is, or even especially online, where most people do their Black Friday shopping. So hopefully you're getting some good deals out there, pal. And you can most certainly do so by listening to this podcast titled Very Cold Lasagna. So in this episode for Very Cold Lasagna, we're going to be talking about Survivor Series. But wait, isn't that happening relatively soon? No. No, not that upcoming Survivor Series. Because the reason why we're not going to be doing that Survivor Series because Triple H decided to fuck things up with this year's Survivor Series by basically ruining the entire point of a particular War Games match. Yes, a particular, what seemed to be a perfectly set up War Games match. Yeah, he basically ruined the whole event for many filthy casual fans out there, including myself, by putting in all these unnecessary wrinkles, all the unnecessary trinkets. Yeah, making it a convoluted and unnecessary mess. So, we're not going to be reviewing that Survivor Series. We may touch on it in a video or two, but we're not going to be doing a podcast on it. We're not going to be going in depth on it because Triple Nose booking has struck again in the year of 2024 because he's just that stupid. Yeah, Triple H is just that dumb. He decided to trinkle with something that was completely unnecessary. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Bloodline Civil War games. I talked about it in a video on the Very Cold Lasagna YouTube channel. Basically, it was a 4-on-4 situation, family business storyline that didn't need to be tinkered with, yet he tinkered with it. But you can go check that out on the YouTube channel. I made a video about it, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So instead, in the spirit of Survivor Series, since Survivor Series this year is happening relatively soon, but we're not going to be touching on that Survivor Series in this episode. We're going to be going back in time, pal. Going back into the coldest depths of the freezer to talk about slightly better, slightly kind of okayish Survivor Series, and that was Survivor Series 2014. We're going back to my neck of the woods, going back to my heyday, to a Survivor Series I grew up with. Yes, the 2014 Survivor Series. So 10 years ago. 10 years of this Survivor Series. It's crazy how it's been 10 years already since this particular Survivor Series event happened. Like, there's a lot of things that happen, and yet that lot of things was a particular match from that particular match alone. But we'll talk about it when we get there throughout this retro review. So we're going back into the coldest depths of the freezer with this retro review of the 2014 Survivor Series. But before we get into this episode, after this long ramble-ish into our little cold open, make sure you follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media, wherever I'm at, whether it's at Twitter or Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. For all my audio listeners out there, make sure you rate, review the show wherever Very Cold Lasagna is on podcast platforms. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, which you should, by the way. Smash the notification bell so you'll be notified of each and every upload that goes up on the YouTube channel. and leave a comment down below for your filthy casual takes on each and every topic that goes up on the YouTube channel. For example, this one being the 2014 Survivor Series pay-per-view from the WWE. And make sure you share this with your friends, share this with your neighbors, share this with a stranger, share this with your colleagues, whether it's at work or school. Make sure you share the good, the bad, the ugly about Very Cold Lasagna. So, that being said, let's talk about this event from the past. Survivor Series 2014. No, we're not going to be talking about Survivor Series War Games 2024. No, we're going to go back to a time. Simpler times in 2014. 10 years ago, this Survivor Series, well, yes, it was still, I don't know. Do all you, certain people call it a dark period for the WWE back then? Where was I in 2014? I was a senior in high school, and I mean, yeah, I mean, wrestling certainly wasn't perfect in my heyday, but that time period was certainly an interesting point. I mean, it wasn't certainly 2010, 2011 bad, but I mean, it was. I'd say it certainly wasn't like where we are now. Certainly where we are now, and currently now it's still not. Most of it's still not good, but I mean, at least back then, I mean, it certainly was. I'd say a little tolerable. It certainly was a little tolerable, but yeah, 2014 was certainly kind of an interesting time. There's still like plenty of presentable faces in the WWE, so you could give it that. So I'll give it that. But when it comes to this particular Survivor Series event, it was, I'd say, a little bit simpler times, because you have this 28th annual event of WWE's Fall Classic. Like back then, there was no war games. There was no brand warfare. I mean, they did have brand warfare before with the Survivor Series event, but they ditched that a couple years ago, prior to bringing it back in 2016 when they did the new brand split that we have now. But prior to that, there was no there's none of this like brand warfare like Raw, SmackDown, NXT stuff. No war games, but yeah, they still had the traditional Survivor Series tag team elimination matches. So this Survivor Series took place at the Scottrade Arena in St. Louis, Missouri. It's now known as the Enterprise Center, home of the St. Louis Blues, in the NHL. So this took place on November 23rd, 2014. So it just surpassed its 10th anniversary. So yeah, it's 10 years old. Like, crazy to believe it's this event that's notable for that particular thing we're gonna be talking about. It's already 10. It's already 10 years old. Like, holy hell. So this was also the first Survivor Series event to be on the WWE Network for just $9.99. And you could get it for hashtag free that night. Oh man, they were pushing the WWE Network that hard during that time. I mean, it was the first year in its infancy, but Vince was really, really pushing. He was really promoting that thing. But I mean, you can't blame him. You really couldn't blame Vince for really wanting to push that thing down your throat, because he was trying to get into new subscribers. Like, this WWE Network, like, was really something. I mean, I'll admit it. Like, yeah, the network promotion was pretty corny. The $9.99 stuff, I'll admit, it kind of like caught on. I mean, it's very, or as hypocritical as I am, it did catch on. But anyway, back to the Survivor Series thing. This was the first one since 2011 to not have a world title match. Granted, you had Brock Lesnar, who was the WWE champion at the time, and the only world champion at the time, because they merged the WWE and the World Heavyweight Championships a year ago. So, and then Brock Lesnar, he had a part-time schedule. So, he was not there a large amount of the time. So, yeah. That was a thing that WWE was doing back then. I mean, some people argued. I mean, that's we can touch on it briefly, but that's another conversation for another day. Some people liked it. Some people didn't like it. Actually, a lot of people didn't like that. So that's another conversation we can have. So that being said, this Survivor Series, it was centered around a big thing that was going to happen. That was supposedly going to shake up the foundation of the WWE yet again. But again, we'll get to that match or matches that will, as we go along in this retro review. So enough rambling, enough dilly-dallying. Let's get into the match card itself, starting with the Survivor Series kickoff show. There were two pre-show matches on this show to get people warmed up in the butts of their seats. And this overall show kicked off with Fandango making his return is a new and improved Fandango taking on Justin Gabriel. Why did Fandango go through a new and improved gimmick at the time? Like, why? Like, was the da was the ballroom thing not working anymore? But like, was people not like really doing the chanting thing anymore? Because at the time, Fandango was like really over with the crowd with the theme song, but was it not catching on with people anymore? So anyway, this is again the supposed debut of the new and improved Fandango, and he had a salsa dancer gimmick now, and he had Rosa Mendez as his new dance partner. So yeah, I guess Vince was trying to spice it up a little bit with Fandango, and yeah, he basically won this short match with Justin Gabriel with the last dance leg drop, and yeah, that was pretty much that. Nothing really else happened with Fandango with this salsa dancer gimmick afterwards. So yeah, this felt anything but like a last dance for Fandango. Then we had the return of Bad News Barrett. They were kind of hyping this up before the show. Wade Barrett made his first appearance since June. He suffered a shoulder injury that required surgery back then. He was the Intercontinental Champion at the time that he suffered the injury, and he actually had to vacate the Intercontinental Championship, which led to that Battle Royale, that clusterfuck, at the Battleground pay-per-view in July. So Wade Barrett made his return here at Survivor Series. He was basically just there to deliver some bad news to both Team Cena and Team Authority. So he's basically the neutral party. He would just basically promise, like, regardless of who wins in the main event, he would bring in the era of Bad News Barrett. And actually, by this point, Bad News Barrett his gimmick was popular with the crowd. Everyone saying "Bad News" along with him. So it started to catch on during this time period. So then the final match of the pre-show had the former tag team partners Jack Swagger and Cesaro going at each other. Before the match started, both sides cut a promo on one another. Cesaro stating his support for the one particular opposition, which being the Authority, and then the other side going for Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger stating their support for Team Cena, which was the main event for the night. Decent match to get people warmed up for what was to come for the main show. Balanced affair, I guess. And then, yeah, Jack Swagger gained the win after multiple attempts to get him to tap. Throughout the match, Jack Swagger finally got Cesaro to give up with the Patriot Lock. Interestingly enough, we're going to talk about Jack Swagger later on in the retro review because he was actually supposed to be involved in the main event. But we'll get involved as to why he wasn't when we talk about that main event. So now, let's get into the actual main show of this 2014 Survivor Series. And funny enough, I do not remember this opening the show. So the show starts with a little bit of a cold open with Vince McMahon coming out, no chance, dun, 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 no chance in hell. And then he comes out, welcomes everyone to Survivor Series. in classic Vince McMahon style. And he brings out the Authority, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. And then he brings out John Cena to just basically do one last plug for the main event, which being Team Cena versus Team Authority. This big battle that's supposed to take place later on the night. So again, yeah, I don't remember this opening the show, like this one last plug for the main event. But there was something interesting to note in this match. So Vince did reveal one last stipulation. If Team Authority lost and Triple H and Stephanie were ousted from power, then only John Cena could bring them back. So we'll touch more on what exactly that has to do with that main event and that stipulation when we get to that match. So for now, we'll get into the first matchup of the night, and that was the WWE Tag Team Championships on the line in a fatal four-way match. And your participants included the champions defending their titles, which being Goldust and Stardust. Y'all know who Stardust was at the time. Going up against Los Matadores, Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, and The Miz and Damian Sandow, aka Mizdow. This was a match that didn't have a lot of setup, like any setup at all. This is a match that, hey, let's throw it on the dartboard and announce it on WWE.com 6 days before the pay-per-view. But yeah, I mean, still, for a match that was announced like this on WWE.com, but it was actually a pretty solid one, especially towards the end. Now, it could have been trimmed down some, like a couple minutes, but those last couple of minutes in this match was actually some pretty fun tag team action. Everyone got their shit in. There's those usual high spots that you typically see nowadays in these WWE, AEW tag team matches. But, you know, they were kind of within reason in this particular match here. The Usos gained some good double team moves on Goldust. And then there were two typical dive onto everyone's spots by the Usos. And then you had one of the Los Matadores, aka the condom heads. The condom looking guys lifting up their mascot, El Torito. He dove onto everyone, or at least tried to, but it looked kind of botched. And then you had one of the condom guys then jump onto everyone. And then, yeah, those are pretty much the high spots of the match. But of course, the biggest story of the match was the crowd favorite in St. Louis, Damian Sandow, who I touched on in our SummerSlam retro review earlier this year. Damian Sandow, who took on the gimmick of being Miz's stunt double, basically doing everything the Miz does, and he by this point caught on to WWE fans, and he was red hot with the St. Louis crowd. Like, the fans wanted him in the ring, and they were saying, "We want Mizdow. We want Mizdow." And like, the more that people wouldn't get Mizdow, the more they were getting antsy. Like, they were getting antsy, the more they had to wait for Mizdow to get in the ring. And when he got his 5 seconds of fame, they were loud. They were cheering their butts off. Their butts were risen up from their seats. And then when Goldust tagged him out, they were pissed. They were so pissed. And I was pissed too. Like, we were watching that. I was like, come on, like, why structure the match like that? It's like, why only let Mizdow get like that couple seconds of time in the ring? Like, man, like, why be like that? Why be like that? So anyway, we had the finish of the match, like, in the midst of all the chaos. I think it was Jay or Jimmy Uso hits the Uso splash on Goldust, but then you have the Miz blind tagging one of the Usos who did the Uso splash as they were about to do it. And then you had the Miz throw either Jay or Jimmy, whoever did it. He threw them into the ring post, and then Miz, seemingly like he was going to get the victory for himself, Mizdow blind tagged the Miz, and then Mizdow, he covered Goldust himself to secure the tag team championships for he and the Miz. whose selfish ass looked like, hey, that was supposed to be my victory, you bitch. But then the Miz Dow was just, doing what he's supposed to be doing. Do what the Miz is supposed to do. Look, shock and awe. And that's exactly what he did. But the Miz played it off. Miz, of course, doing what he has to do, play it off. And he was just like, oh. It's like, and then he got the title. And then they were just like, yeah. The Miz was just like celebrating as if he won the titles. And then they got into a, yeah, boo. And then people were, of course, going for for Damien Sandow. This was like this was such a fun dynamic back in the day. Like Damien Sandow, he really made the most of this gimmick, being this stunt double with the Miz. And again, I just wish it had a better payoff in the end. Now, I was expecting like WWE Championship levels of payoff, but I wish the follow-up was like something a little bit bigger than what we got in the end. But yeah, when it comes to this match, had the first couple minutes of, Goldust and Stardust just slowing the pace down. Had that been trimmed a little bit, this would have been a good opener. I mean, it's still a solid opener, but yeah, it could have been trimmed down a little bit. But I like the closing moment, and yeah, it set the stage for what was to come for this Hollywood duo of Miz and Mizdow. So I like that story continuing at the time, and still did now looking back at it. So the next matchup saw the first of two traditional Survivor Series matches of the night, and this first one involved Team Natalya going up against Team Paige. The participants for each team, starting first with Team Natalya, Alicia Fox, Emma, and Naomi. And then on the side of Team Paige, of course, you had the team captain, Paige, Cameron, Layla, and Summer Rae. Yeah, this was your women's division back then, Val, on the main roster. Honestly, there wasn't much, if any, story to this match at all. I don't know. Like, yeah, this is how it was back in the day. I mean, honestly, is it any better than where we are now? I mean, let's be real. Like, is it really any better? I mean, I guess there are a few things better. A decade later, there's at least some structure. But I mean, the booking is still not any better. But then again, I don't know. That's a whole other topic. But anyway, yeah, other than Paige, I guess, breaking up her partnership with Alicia Fox after Hell in a Cell, and then she wanted to disrespect and even lick Natalya. I think it was during this time that she licked Natalya on the episode of Main Event. We all remember that picture of Paige licking Natalya, being a freak and all that during that time. And then, I don't know, this was just randomly set up for Survivor Series on like WWE.com or something. So, yeah, there wasn't really much flavor to this match. People were just basically going to the restroom. Yeah, the common meme back in the day, leave us match, gotta pee. Yeah, that kind of thing. People were chanting, "We want Mizdow" during this match. And honestly, this is just basically material for the next season of Total Divas. Hell, I think even commentary mentioned that, oh, this is going to be on Total Divas next season. And then Tyson Kidd was there too for some reason. And in full gear too. Like, why was he in full gear? Like, as if he was going to be in this match. Like, well, why? You couldn't be in street clothes or anything? Like, you didn't have your street clothes when you went to St. Louis there, in 2014? Like, why are you in your full gear? To support your wife. I don't know, man. So anyway, let's go through the eliminations. Cameron was first eliminated by Naomi on some kind of athletic fruit roll-up. Naomi was honestly the standout of this match. For as kind of botchy as she was back then, she was kind of like the standout in this match. Then Layla was next eliminated by Alicia Fox on a twirl-the-world backbreaker. But then she, like, literally, before that, she no-sold a crossbody before doing the twirl world backbreaker. It was like, what are you, Rhea Ripley? Like, were you the Rhea Ripley before the Rhea Ripley? Like, Rhea Hogan, brother. Anyway, Summer Rae got eliminated next by Emma, tapping out to her submission finish, which looks kind of crazy if you ask me. And then Paige then last got eliminated by Naomi with the rear view and a head scissors, with a head scissors like face plant or something. And that completed the clean sweep for Team Natalia. So yeah, Paige got swept in the Survivor Series match. So yeah, not a lot of substance, not a lot to care about. And yeah, about that. So then we had our third matchup of the night, and that involved Bray Wyatt taking on Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose, he was closing in on beating Seth Rollins in his Hell in a Cell main event match at, Hell in a Cell at that pay-per-view. But in the closing moments, the lights went out, and then Bray Wyatt's lantern showed up in the ring, and Bray Wyatt attacked Dean Ambrose, and Dean Ambrose lost to Seth as a result. So then you have this new feud start between the two, and throughout it, Bray Wyatt would bring up Dean Ambrose's inmate dad for some reason to try and get in his head. And that sets up this match at Survivor Series. I'm like, okay. And then you watch the match itself. Like, I tried to get into this match. Like, I really did. But then it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it was the story of the match, like, not really, like, driving me in. Or maybe I just, like, didn't really care for it. Or maybe it's just the fact that this is a regular singles match when, the story calls for a stipulation. Or maybe it's just like Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose not really having that in-ring chemistry with each other. Or like not doing much to try and tell a story. Or the crowd not really into it. I don't know. Something about this match was really off. Because like I wasn't really invested into this match. And I don't know. Something about this was just not really clicking with me. And not to say that this match totally sucked, but it just was disappointing. It just was disappointing to me. So you had the finish of the match. So Bray Wyatt, he leaves the ring after knocking out Dean Ambrose, and then he grabs a microphone from the ring announcer. So he gets a microphone, and then he tells Dean Ambrose that, while fake crying, he didn't want things to be this way, but he left him no choice. And then he goes out to the ring, gets 2 steel chairs from under the ring, and then he slid one past the referee before sliding the other one to Dean Ambrose to pick up. It's a similar spot to his Mania match with John Cena, making him, make his choice, trying to enrage Dean Ambrose. But then he forgot to consider that Dean Ambrose was, his whole character was being a freaking lunatic. He doesn't put a lot of thought into things. And he actually went to attack Bray Wyatt with the chair. And he got himself disqualified because, there was no stipulation. It was a regular singles match. So what did you expect? So Dean Ambrose attacks Bray Wyatt with a chair. Then he puts him through a table. And then he buries him under another table that he brought out and a bunch of chairs before you get a photo finish on top of a ladder. So yeah, that was basically like the only highlight of this match. Like that was literally it. Like I literally didn't like anything else before it. Like literally, that's all I remember from this match. And this basically also signaled their TLC tables, ladders, and chairs match to come at the next month at that TLC pay-per-view, which was honestly, it was better, but I absolutely hated the ending of that match. Like, really? Dean Ambrose loses because, he forgot to unplug the TV, and then it sparked in his face. Like, really? Man, like, why was Vince booking Dean Ambrose so bad? Post Shield, man. It's like, why was Dean the odd man out? Like, I hold Roman, Dean, Seth, and Dean so well, man. But it's like, why was Dean the odd man out to Vince? Like, all three could have been successful in WWE. I mean, Roman and Seth obviously are, but why was Dean the odd man out? I don't know, man. Anyway, we had another match that was added literally the day of, like literally 2 hours before. And that was Adam Rose and the Bunny taking on Heath Slater and Titus O'Neil, Slater Gator. Again, this matchup was randomly set up 2 hours before in a backstage segment where you had Adam Rose and the Bunny playing with a WWE figure set. I don't know if this was supposed to be paid advertisement for Mattel, but they were interrupted by Heath Slater and Titus O'Neil regardless. And then Slater and O'Neil insulted the Bunny. So Rose challenged them to this match here. So in this match, yeah, Adam Rose got his butt whooped by Slater Gator. But then he managed to escape and tag in as unwillingly as he wanted to for some reason to the Bunny. And the Bunny went on a hot tag flurry. And he actually pinned Heath Slater on a missile drop kick after a 2.5 minute match. Yeah. That was literally the match. Adam Rose getting his butt kicked by Heath Slater and Titus O'Neil. And then the Bunny came in on a hot tag flurry and beat Heath Slater. Yeah. A guy in a bunny costume in 2014 beat Heath Slater. Were there worse things in the years to follow? Oh, yeah, there's the big dog costume 5 years later. Yeah, there's that. There was the swamp fight in 2020 during the pandemic. I don't know. Yeah, it comes to that or this as one of the worst things that we saw. I don't know. Yeah, when it comes to this, though, I don't remember if this led to Adam Rose betraying the Bunny, because I kind of remember that now, that Adam Rose was like having issues, like having those seeds of dissent with the Bunny and his rosebuds. Like he's growing out a beard or some shit. I don't know. Adam Rose was such a jobber. Like by that point in time, like nobody cared about the rosebud thing at that point. And you know, at this point, reviewing this 10 years later, I mean, I didn't care then. I didn't care. Don't care now. Like what happened with that whole storyline. So whatever. So next you had an appearance by Roman Reigns. Roman, during this time, he was still out with injury that he suffered like just before Night of Champions. So Roman, 2 months later, he appeared via satellite to give his opinions to the commentary crew on the main event. But more importantly, the biggest takeaway from his appearance, he would be back next month. So yeah, he would make his return at TLC in that tables match. And then, well, yeah, we all know what happened from there. But that's another story for another time. Next, we had the WWE Divas Championship match between AJ Lee and Nikki Bella. Nikki Bella won a Halloween Battle Royale 2 nights after Hell in a Cell to earn this title match against AJ, and throughout the build, or severely lack thereof, both would play mind games on each other, with Nikki having Brie cosplayer because Brie was still technically the personal assistant for Nikki because of their match at Hell in a Cell. And then you have AJ cosplaying as Nikki in the lead up to their match at Survivor Series. So yeah, it was a whatever build. So we actually get proper ring introductions for both women here, and then the match starts. They're circling each other, but then Brie Bella with the Divas Championship, she gets up on the ring apron, and then she decides to do a callback to WrestleMania 28 and use that against AJ. She uses AJ's good luck kiss to Daniel Bryan and use it against AJ. So yeah, she does that, and Nikki takes AJ out, and then she uses the rack attack to steal the Divas title in about 30 seconds. Yeah. It was a match. It was a match that happened. Now, I initially thought that this didn't make much sense back in the day because, like, why would Brie help Nikki Bella when she's literally the personal assistant? Like, she's been dreading to, like, leave Nikki. She's dreading to betray her. And she only has, like, what, 2 days until she has to leave. She gets to stop being the personal assistant and go on with her life, kayfabe wise, of course. So, yeah, well, the personal assistant part still doesn't make sense. But, you know, they did show a replay for that matter. AJ attacking Brie 6 days prior on Raw after the match with Nikki Bella. So I guess that part makes somewhat sense as to why Brie got kissed AJ. Now, my question is, did they ever bring up why Nikki and Brie made up? Like, did they ever acknowledge that on the next night on Raw? I don't remember. Like, I don't remember, like, if they ever did that. If it's like a blood is thicker than water, or it's like a sisterhood thing, I don't know. I don't remember or care. It's just if it was like a Vince thing, like retcon kind of thing, like they're doing with the Bloodline kind of thing, or like with the Rhea Ripley Liv thing now they're doing, and they just retconned it, like just threw it in the past. I mean, it'd be very stupid. But anyway, yeah, it was a title match that happened. So now we get to the main event, the meat and potatoes of this show. And that was the big Survivor Series elimination match. Team Cena taking on Team Authority. Perhaps the match that everyone remembers, whether you're a casual wrestling fan or a hardcore wrestling fan. This is the match that pretty much carried the show, that carried all the marbles on this show. Yes, even 10 years later. So, your participants for this Survivor Series match. Of course, leading the charge for Team Cena, John Cena himself, Dolph Ziggler, Eric Rowan, well, the Big Show, and then the big guy, Ryback. And then you got Team Authority. You got Seth Rollins before he was Seth freaking Rollins. You got the Big Red Machine, or the Big Red Corporate Machine, Kane. You got Luke Harper, the Intercontinental Champion, the World's Strongest Man, Mark Henry, and then Rusev, the United States Champion. So, Team Authority, it seemed like they're going to accomplish all the things that they wanted to do and crush Team Cena. It seemed like, you know, looking at that team on paper, definitely could. But before we could get into that, let's look at how this match was set up on hand. So, Triple H, the night after Hell in a Cell, made this 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match between a team representing the Authority, which is the one that I talked about, and a team captained by John Cena, which is also what I talked about, because John Cena rejected an offer to join them. Cena had recently just become the number one contender to Brock Lesnar's WWE title, and, well, yeah, the Authority wanted his services, but Cena, being the good guy that he is, didn't want in. Then you have the next week on Raw, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon comes out strutting, and he ups the stakes by announcing the Authority would lose control of the WWE should they lose this match. So the stakes have been upped. So in other words, Triple H would no longer be the COO. Stephanie would no longer be whatever her position was. I can't remember what her exact position was at the time. Sorry. And then Kane would no longer be the director of operations. So, yeah, they would lose their respective positions and then just basically have just regular desk jobs. So, throughout the build-up, the teams would be built. Dolph Ziggler for first joined Team Cena. And then initially, you would have Sheamus, Big Show, and Jack Swagger. But then you start seeing some shuffling around Team Cena because Jack Swagger and Sheamus were removed after being injured by Seth and Mark Henry in the build-up. But what really confuses me though is, like, why was Jack Swagger removed Yes, they mentioned that he got curb stomped twice hard by Seth, but then he was in the pre-show. And I was like why that's so dumb. That's a little bit dumb booking, don't you think? Because if Jack Swagger was injured, don't you think that he should have been not been on the show at all? But yet he was on the pre-show? That doesn't make a lot of sense, don't you think? That's just kind of an excuse of, oh, we can't have him here. Can't have him in the main event. But yeah, it doesn't make some sense to have him in because he was still kind of popular-ish with the WWE fans because he still had the we the people gimmick going on, the whole pro USA kind of thing going. So I'm not sure why didn't have Jack Swagger in this spot here. It's very confusing. Like why Vince didn't want Jack Swagger on Team Cena. It was dumb, if you ask me. And we'll talk about his replacement in just a bit. So then joining Seth and Kane on Team Authority were Luke Harper and Mark Henry. Now, Randy Orton initially was supposed to be a part of Team Authority, but he got ejected after attacking his group mates, including Seth. And he also got written off TV after the Authority attacked him in retaliation, including being curb stomped onto the steel steps by Seth. And yeah, Randy Orton got written off TV, returned a couple months later to set up that their eventual feud for the show at WrestleMania. So Ryback was also initially part of Team Authority, but left after Kane got involved in his match against Cena in London, mate, or wherever they were in England during that time. So Cena decided to go and try and convince Ryback to join his team, at first to no avail. So then on the Raw for Survivor Series, Cena would get his replacement for Jack Swagger in Eric Rowan. Yes, Eric Rowan. The former Wyatt family member who went out on his own, did nothing much, but yeah, Vince decided, oh, hey, let's try to push him a little bit here. Because, well, he's now in opposition to Luke Harper. Yeah, okay. Again, I mean, I get the reasoning behind it, but over Jack Swagger, I don't know. It was an interesting choice, especially considering that Jack Swagger had issues with Rusev. He had a previous rivalry with Rusev during that time too, but I get the whole Eric Rowan and Luke Harper thing going on. But anyway, and at the end of the night, on that Raw, they would eventually get Ryback to join on Team Cena as well. So the teams were set for Team Cena and Team Authority. And then on the last SmackDown before Survivor Series, the stakes were upped even more. Not just for Team Authority now, but now it was even. Because if Team Cena had lost, everyone, except for some reason, except for Cena himself, everyone would be fired. Now, it was a little confusing as to why they didn't mention that Cena would get fired himself. But I suppose, he's the face of the company. You can't afford to lose him. It's kind of interesting. Like, maybe up the stakes for Cena himself. It's like, have him get fired too. So put some pressure on him. Maybe a thought. Just a thought. But yeah, this set up this high stakes, high drama Survivor Series match. And man, looking back at this now, I can tell you that this was one, like the last really, for how long build was like a 4-week build for Survivor Series. I'd say it's a pretty good build up for this kind of high stakes match, like a really nicely told story. Now, like some of the team members are, especially on Team Cena, were kind of questionable, but I was going to go in with an open mind once again with this matchup. And boy, I was in for a treat. I was certainly in for a treat when we got to this match because it started out in a pretty funny way. Because after getting hyped up, jacked by the Authority and his teammates, Mark Henry instantly eliminated by the Big Show. And It was like one of the funniest eliminations, and it probably gets replayed a lot on social media with how much the Authority was just glazing Mark Henry, and Henry himself was like getting all jacked, and then Big Show just in the flash just KOs him when Henry just ran into him. So Henry gets eliminated in about 50 seconds, and Team Authority is already at a 5-on-4 disadvantage. So then you have Ryback on the verge of eliminating Rusev with the shell shocked, but then Kane comes in to kick Ryback in the face, and this leads to a massive brawl between both teams. And in the midst of that brawl, Seth Rollins comes in to curb stomp Ryback, and then Rusev finishes the job with the Machka super kick, and that eliminates Ryback, putting the teams back at 4-4 apiece. And then for some reason the match slows down, so each member of the Authority could get a lick on Dolph Ziggler, and more on Dolph Ziggler in a bit. And then it got chaotic again when Eric Rowan threw Seth Rollins onto almost everybody, and then Rusev threw Ziggler onto the everybody dog pile. So then Rusev decides to get overconfident. He was ready to crush Dolph Ziggler. He was ready to go table to table on Dolph Ziggler. But then Rusev got overzealous because Ziggler rolled out of the way from the second table, and Rusev went face first. He splashed through the announce table. And then both men were trying to beat the count, and Ziggler was the only one to beat the 10 count. So Rusev, in a way, was protected. He wasn't pinned nor submitted. He got counted out. So Rusev was eliminated. So I guess you could say their best man on the team was eliminated by count out. So then you have Seth Rollins making his dirty presence felt in the next few minutes of the match, cooling off a John Cena hot tag, stopping Cena from eliminating Kane off an AA, immediately curb stomping Cena into the ground, and then causing Eric Rowan to get eliminated with a springboard high knee that was followed up with a discus clothesline by Luke Harper. So that put Team Cena and Team Authority back at 3-3 apiece, and it seemed like the Big Show was going to come in and help out Ade Cena fight off Team Authority. But of course, it wouldn't be a Survivor Series match. It wouldn't be a typical Big Show match without one of his many classic Big Show heel turns. Because, yeah, as soon as Cena got up, bam, he hit John Cena with a KO punch, and Seth Rollins pins his ass, eliminates the team captain, and it's 2-on-3 for Team Authority. And then Big Show, of course, walks out on Team Cena, shook the hand of Triple H before leaving, and then it's 3-1. 3-1 for Team Authority. Of course, it had to be the Survivor Series match with a Big Show heel turn that made little sense. It was just a Big Show turn for the sake of Big Show. Like, how many times have we seen Big Show turn heel in like in the span of 2 years? Like, the man was a heel like 2 years. Like, and he was one of the biggest oppositions to the Authority like the year before, standing up for Daniel Bryan, and yet a year later he joins the Authority. Like, what kind of stupid booking is that? It's like, this is like so stupid. This is like dumb booking. Like, but of course, it's the Big Show. Of course it is. Of course. So amidst the Big Show stupidity, Dolph Ziggler began what I think was probably one of the best, if not, oh no, I say, well, it's one of the best. I don't know if I could put it at the best, but nonetheless, he began his crazy 3-1 comeback at Survivor Series. He eliminates Kane with a super kick and the zigzag. And then after taking another big beating from Luke Harper, he suddenly found the willpower to eliminate Luke Harper with the deadly fruit roll-up. And then he eliminates the 3-1 comeback and leaves it to just him and Seth Rollins with the future of WWE at stake. So yeah, it's back to it's at a one-on-one match. So there's so much high drama, high intensity by this point in the match, and it was about to get even crazier. So you got some near falls from both guys. They were going at each other's throats, and Dolph Ziggler nearly had the match won. He reversed crossbody from Seth Rollins, and then Dolph Ziggler hit the zigzag. And when the official was about to count the 1, 2, 3, Triple H pulled out the official. And of course, that shows the reek of desperation to keep the authority in power. And in comes in J&J Security with all the shenanigans going in on Dolph Ziggler. But then Ziggler overpowered them, threw Joey Mercury into Stephanie, took her off the ring apron, and then reversed Seth Rollins' curb stomp into another zigzag. But then here you have Triple H again. This time even more desperate than ever, attacking the second official after having to run his long ass down to the ramp and then counting the pin. Then Triple H attacks him, and then he was really desperate. He was so desperate. He ripped off the coat. He unbuttoned his expensive ass dress shirt. Of course, not all the way down, unfortunately. No, just kidding. I'm lying. But anyway, he unbuttoned his dress shirt. He attacked Dolph Ziggler, and he pedigreed his ass to the ground. And he laid Seth down there on Dolph so he can finish the job. And then he brought his crooked ass official, Scott Armstrong, to finish the job as well. Count the 1, 2, 3. And as Scott Armstrong was about to count the 1, 2, 3, the arena goes dark. The crows play all around the arena. And then a familiar face shows on the screen before music plays. Sting! It was Sting! This is Sting! After over a decade of unwillingness to work with them, over a decade of waiting, after thinking it may never happen, the Stinger finally made his way to the company no one had ever thought he'd show up for. Sting finally made his debut for the WWE. It's like, holy fuck. You didn't, like, this was such a big deal at the time. Like, Sting, yeah, it was like several years late, but who cares if it was out of date? Sting was finally in the WWE, slowly marching his way down the aisleway in Scottrade Arena. But who cares if it was late out of date? Took out Scott Armstrong. He got in the ring, got a good look at Triple H. Fans were chanting, "This is awesome." We were all chanting, "This is awesome" at home. Triple H tried to strike down the Stinger, but Sting struck back. And then he took Triple H down with the Scorpion Death Drop. Like, man, the chills, the excitement I was feeling that day. Like, fuck. Like, no, growing up watching Sting back in TNA, yes, that was the Sting I grew up with, pal. Not WCW Sting. TNA Sting. Like, never in a day that I thought that he would show up in WWE. Like, the dream match I always wanted was Sting versus Undertaker. We never got that, unfortunately. But I still wanted Sting in WWE. And then, when that moment happened, it's like, damn it, we finally got it. And then before he left, he dragged Dolph Ziggler onto Seth, and the official counted 1, 2, 3. The Authority was no more. They were finished forever. Well, not really. But at least for that night, the Authority was no longer in power. They were gone for good. So Dolph Ziggler was celebrating. The fans were cheering. Cena came back out to celebrate with him. And the night went on. The night ended with Triple H and Stephanie hearing it from the St. Louis fans serenade him. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Get back. Sorry. I was trying to come up with something, but couldn't. Because it was a feel-good moment. Like, It was a feel-good moment at that time. Now, some may have complained that this was a very long match. It was too long, but this was justifiably long. Yeah, it's like on those, oh, it's a too long of a match. Like you can't handle work rate matches, but this was actually a justifiably long match because of the story, the drama, the stakes that were had. When you watch this match, you felt what was at stake, and the more the match went on, the more pressure there was for each side. The eliminations actually mattered, especially, again, with the story that was told, especially with how every person on Team Authority sold it in the last 10 minutes of the match when it was just Seth, Kane, and Luke Harper. You know, they thought they had it. They thought they had it against Dolph Ziggler, being the last man standing for Team Cena. But then no, Dolph Ziggler goes on a 3-1 comeback to, well, along with Sting helping him, beat Team Authority. Like, everyone in this match, yes, including Mark Henry, they were all settling the importance of this story between giving the power to the people back and the dictatorship that the Authority were trying to have forever and ever. Amen. So, yeah, that's why almost everything in this match mattered. Like, they sold as such. And of course, there was the WWE debut of Sting. Again, no one ever thought we would ever get it. He had turned down back in 2001, and WCW folded. And then in 2011, there was the possibility of him going to WWE, finally fulfilling the prophecy of that WrestleMania match, that big dream match everyone had been wanting and clamoring. Sting versus Undertaker. But no, that never happened. And of course, never will. Because, well, he signed a deal to re-sign with TNA back in the day. And then 3 years later after that happened, when he became a free agent, finally, WWE managed to strike and get him to agree to a deal. And man, then when he debuted at that Survivor Series, we were all going crazy. Yeah, again, it was several years late and out of date, but damn it, the sight of seeing Sting in the WWE. Now, sure, what happened after was, I guess you could say, another story for another time, and it kind of, I guess you could say, is a little bit of a downer. But man, his debut was something that no one would ever thought would happen. After he kept just turning it down. But that debut was just something crazy. Like something you really had to like witness, whether it was live on the WWE Network or in person when you were in St. Louis. But this match was chaotic. This match had all the drama, all the suspense, had all the surprises, and that's what makes this the last great Survivor Series match. I'm not talking about War Games. I mean, don't get me wrong. Well, the only good War Games match, the only great War Games match, like in the modern era, is, well, the Bloodline match in 2022. But when I'm talking about Survivor Series match, like the traditional one, this one is the last great one. Like, this is the last great Survivor Series match because, like I said, the chaos, the drama, the storytelling, the surprises. This literally had everything. It's just unfortunate, though. They literally retconned it. They reversed it. They literally made it, like, pointless a month later. Like, Vince literally had no plan in place afterwards. I guess the planning before it was, like, oh, like, why don't we, like, add a twist to this Authority storyline? Or, why don't we just, like, throw this into thin air, pal? Like, they really didn't plan this out. Because literally what this should have been was the true end of the Authority storyline. Like, aside from the Seth Rollins cash in, and the Authority trying to be Roman Reigns' biggest opposition during his babyface run, which the fans clearly rejected. What else did the Authority do? Like when they were brought back a month later, like what else did they do that was noteworthy? Like seriously, what did they do? Like, because I clearly don't remember anything else that, aside from Seth Rollins and, you know, the Authority being the biggest opposition to Roman Reigns, like, what else did they do? Like, what was the other members of the Authority doing to be notable on the roster? Because I certainly don't remember anything else. Like the Authority, after next month, was overstating its welcome, if you were being honest. So, yes, this Survivor Series should have been the end of the Authority stable. Like, the true end. Like, you still could have had the Seth cash in. You still could have tried to make Roman Reigns something. But it's like, it all could have been done without the Authority. Like, if you ask me. But anyway, overall, this Survivor Series, I'd say it was decent. I'd say it's close to a solid, but I'd say that because the main event really carried this show. The high stakes, the high drama of that main event, that was pretty much the saving grace of this show. Because I guess you could say outside of the WWE Tag Team title match, that's probably another like somewhat positive from this show. Everything else, it kind of sucked. Yeah, it kind of sucked, if you ask me. It's like between the opening match and the main event, it was all filler. It all sucked. There's like no point in like watching any of that, especially like Adam Rose and the Bunny and Slater Gator. Like that was just literally added on the day of. Like, why? But the main event more than makes up for that. I highly recommend, whether you're a wrestling fan or not, go back and watch that match. That's another match that, if you're a first time wrestling fan, you know, show that to your friends, show that to your neighbor, show that to a stranger. Yeah, go back and watch that 5-on-5 high stakes Survivor Series match. That includes the WWE debut of one of the best wrestling legends of all time. His name is Sting. So, yeah, overall, Survivor Series 2014, decent show, but again, carried by the main event. But still, I'd say it was a decent show. So, what do you guys think about Survivor Series 2014? If you watched it back in the day, watched it back now, in honor of its 10th anniversary, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether it's on YouTube, or send me a DM, slide into the DMs on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna. Let's have a conversation about it on its 10th anniversary, as we're currently in Survivor Series season. As the upcoming one is coming up, which, you know, I'm not going to be doing a review on, but in the spirit of Survivor Series, we're doing a retro review of this pay-per-view. So let me know your thoughts. Let's have a conversation about it. And yeah, I'd like to see your takes on the 2014 WWE Survivor Series. But that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, signing off of another episode number 231 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sport, whether it's in the past or in the present. We're here to provide all the filthy casual takes here, as a filthy casual wrestling fan and a sports fan as well. And until the next one, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. Make sure you don't actually eat very cold lasagna, because I don't want you getting sick, pal. But anyway, until I see you, when I see you in the next one, peace out.